Welcome to the I-80 Boys College Football Show. Notre Dame fans, have you missed us? Because we're back and we're going to be talking about your team again. All right.
Oh boy.
Now, Chris, speaking of Notre Dame, how many wins, how many losses this year for the Fighting Irish?
Well, I'll say this: great season, Notre Dame last year. Obviously, I was wrong on them. They proved me wrong. I have them going 11-1. Now, they could go 12-0 in this schedule too. There's no doubt about it. I don't think anybody's going undefeated. That's why I have them at 11-1. The first two games of the year, those are the big ones. I have them losing to A&M. Now, that game last year was their first game, and that was a hell of a football game that night. I remember Christian and I were watching it. It was a really good drag it out football game, old school, great defense, good run games, great game. I have them losing A&M here, but man, after that game, I mean, is this not the easiest schedule in the country for a Power Four school? I mean, this is. I'm not trying to knock on USC. I'm not trying to throw shade at Pitt or Stanford or some of these teams, but my God, man, 11-1 Christian. What's your thoughts here? You probably have them going undefeated.
No, I do not. I actually have them 10-2. Miami,
Oh,
Texas A&M, two losses. A little more realistic here with Notre Dame. And the reason why I've been kind of saying this for a minute now in this narrative here, it's going to probably fire up the Notre Dame fan base. We know historically with Marcus Freeman, it seems like every year, early in the season, early on their schedule, they lose a game they shouldn't lose. Was it Marshall one year? Last year it was against Northern Illinois. I mean, Miami, there's a easy way to get to start the year off 0-1. Then you look at Texas A&M, a team that they beat on the road last year. You know Elko and that team are going to be pissed off and ready to go for that game in a primetime slot there. So I think they get out of those two games. They start getting more into their regular schedule. I think they'll be just fine. The biggest and most important game to me, though, Chris, is Miami. Look, lots of questions are going to surround this game, but the biggest one, how do they respond after losing the national championship to Ohio State? They also lost a ton of productions from last year's team. And when we talked about it, they have to go on the road to a hungry Miami team. What's your thoughts, Chris? What's the most important game for them here?
um, yeah, this is kind of a loaded question here. Just in Miami is going to be a very interesting game. It's on the road. It is obviously at Miami. I don't know how much of a home field advantage Miami is, but that stadium will be back for that one. I I don't know, man. The first two games definitely, because after that, I mean, I'm not like I said, I'm not trying to throw shade at Arkansas. It's not the easiest place to play either, but like the fact that it's Notre Dame, and I honestly think that you're right. Marcus Freeman has always lost one game he shouldn't to somebody that I mean Northern Illinois last year. When you look at that, like that was remember that game. I mean, we were shocked. I mean, the whole college football landscape was that they lost that game, but boy, they bounced back. Right, they played an ungodly good playoff. Beating Georgia, beating some of those teams. Indiana wasn't a bad team last year either. Here's the thing, though, Christian. Like my biggest thing with Notre Dame, I love Marcus Freeman. Like I do truly think what he's done there has been way more than anything Brian Kelly's ever done, or even coaches before him in my lifetime. Honestly, I like Marcus Freeman. I do think he knows what he's doing. He's done a good job of keeping talent there. The quarterback position, I think, will be huge, right? The loss of Riley Leonard, you guys heard me talk about him a lot last year. I don't think he was an elite level thrower of the football. That kind of showed in the national title game when they got down. But boy, you want a 3rd and 3, he was going to get it for you. I love the kid. He was a winner. They bring in CJ Carr, who I think is obviously ultra talented. I think he will throw the ball better. I don't think he's near the runner, obviously, Christian. But what's your thoughts on this offense in particular? We haven't talked about Jeremiah Love, who we know who's really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about offensively, they're starting a kid at quarterback that has not attempted a single collegiate pass up until this point. That's going to be the biggest thing. That's why I think the Miami game is really
That's huge.
they're gonna struggle the first couple games, I think, to find their offense, their identity offensively. Now, I think they'll get it going. I mean, they did that last year with Riley Leonard. They looked god awful at throwing the football until they played Purdue. And then they kind of figured it out, and Notre Dame fans started to tell us about it and everything like that. But you touched on it, Chris. I mean, look, they bring back Jordan Love and Jadarian Price. Jordan Love is going to be probably at the top of most Heisman lists this year. Can he have another breakout year, get this offense, keep this offense trugging along, doing what they want to do? And it's not just about Jordan Love, right? It's about the offensive line and how many pieces from last year's team did they lose. I mean, I can tell you right now, they lost at least 3 to 4 of their starting offensive line from last year. How is that going to all mesh together early on in this schedule? That's the big thing for me. Receivers wise, I mean, they have some good receivers here. They brought in a couple of good ones, like Malachi Fields, Virginia transfer, who put up 800 yards and 5 touchdowns last year. And you bring back Jaden Greathouse, just under 600 yards last year and 4 touchdowns. We know what Notre Dame wants to do. They want to play stout defensively, and they want to run the football, control the clock, pick their spots where they throw the ball. That's always kind of how Marcus Freeman and this team have kind of done things, I feel like. But in these games where you have to play in Ohio State and you maybe get down a little bit early and you got to throw the football, how do you do there? That's the areas where we got to see them step up. And I don't know right off the rip if CJ Carr is going to look like the answer to the first 2 games. I think he could struggle, and that could be the key in those games. I want to touch on something that's a little underrated here, Chris. Al Golden, defensive coordinator, going to the Bengals. I thought he helped make Notre Dame a much more physical, much more complete team and was able to elevate that defense to the next level. What's your thoughts on that? And also, what do you think about the Chris Ash hire as the defensive coordinator spot?
Yeah, I know that the Al Golden, what he did there was awesome. I thought Notre Dame took a step forward. It's not like Notre Dame has lacked defensive talent. They've always recruited very well on that side of the ball. Last year, they only allowed, I think, 16.5 points per game. That was 7th best in the nation. Get this stat. They allowed fewer than 17 points 12 out of 14 games. I mean, that's elite. That's really good. Do they duplicate that this year under Ash? I don't know. Maybe not quite to that degree. They lost my boy, my Nebraska homegrown kid, Xavier Watts. That kid was a stud. God, I wish Nebraska would have landed him. That would have been great. But no, I think they're going to be just as good, though. Like, with the schedule, you're right. Miami's going to have a pretty good offense. It'll be interesting to see how that defense comes out in that game and responds. But outside of that, I still think this defense is going to be very good. Marcus Freeman seems to really build, like you talked about, you touched on it, his team's around defense, right? And they're going to have, like the Ohio States of the world, the Penn States, they recruit incredibly well. And I feel like the defense, even if it does take a little bit of a step back, I'd like to think their offense even maybe takes a bigger step forward because they can throw the ball. Yes, you're right. It may take a couple games, but with this schedule, which is pretty easy to navigate after those first 2 games, Notre Dame should be ahead in the majority of these games, and I think they're just going to pound the ball with Love, who I do think is the best back in the country overall. I think he's going to have a big year. So what's your thoughts about the question you just asked me, too? I mean, do you think their defense takes a step back? I think we're a little bit different on Notre Dame here, but what's your thoughts on that, Christian?
I think it takes a little bit of a step back. Not much. Like, I'm not saying, hey, they're going to go from being one of the most physical, best defenses in the country to being like, Swiss cheese over there or anything. I do think they take just a little bit of a regression step back, but I think their defense is going to be very good again this year. Chris Ash, former NFL assistant coach, was a scout for the Jacksonville Jaguars leading up into this year. And then the last time he was a defensive coordinator, Chris, was in 2020 at Texas when I believe it was Tom Herman was there and got fired. So just something to keep an eye on. They did bring in Devontae Smith from Alabama, very talented, had 30 tackles and 5 pass breakups. To me, the question on the defensive side of the ball is you lose guys like Jack Kaiser, Xavier Watts, like you touched on, Riley Mills, Howard Cross, and Jordan Clark. Big guys for their defense last year. But you also bring back defensive tackle Donovan Hinish, Boubacar Toure, and Junior Tuhalamaka. I think I'm getting good at these Hawaiian pronunciations, man. I'm telling you. Give me some Duolingo out here. All right. They all combined for 10.5 sacks last year. Linebacker room does return Drake Bowen, Jalen Sneed, and Jaden Asbury, who combined for 185 tackles. Again, a lot of production there coming back, so that's going to be good for them. Secondary returns Christian Gray, Aiden Schuler, and Leonard Moore. Pretty good guys. I think all of them will have a chance to play on Sundays. So they have talent there. Don't get me wrong. They do have talent. I just don't feel like they're maybe as loaded as they were last year on that side of the ball. That's the only thing we're saying. Last thoughts here, Chris. What do you think?
Yeah, no, just to touch on that defense. No, I'm with you 100% on that. Like I said, I don't, I don't think they have the star power on defense like they did last year, but I think they have some. They actually had more depth. You know what I'm saying? They might not have the flashy names like the Jack Kaisers and Xavier Watts, but I think the depth wise they're going to be fine there. Like I said, they always put out tons of talent on the defensive side of the ball. So Notre Dame overall to me though, they're a playoff team, right? I mean, I honestly think so. Even if they do go 10-2, I still think they get in. I got them penciled at 11-1, like I said. That Miami game, very important game to start the season on the road for a guy that hasn't thrown a college pass, will be very interesting. It'll be one of the bigger games to start the season. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Notre Dame. Christian, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, just my last thoughts on it are, can they be better at throwing the ball this year? We touched on CJ Carr. He's kind of the unknown in all of this. Will the run game be as good as it was last year, losing a ton off that offensive line? And lastly, can they survive potentially going 0-2 to start this year off? That's going to be the big question for me if that happens.